Please make sure you're on gallery view, which you can find in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and that you are muted. Thank you. Here we are, gathered together. We are gathered together, held in love's gaze. We are love's gaze. We are here. We are open. Open. We are awake. Awake. Fresh to this moment arising. Fresh to this moment arising. This tabula rasa. This clean slate. This moment. Pregnant with possibility. This moment pregnant with possibility. And we are grounded. Here. Now. Held in love's gaze. Welcome. Welcome to and yet. And yet.
So, here we are in our final session together for now. Is this an end or a fresh beginning to this exploration of reaching in and out for living from love in this world of ours? Because our inquiry together over these months has, in essence, explored ways that we might help ourselves and each other to disappear into presence, and then through presence, into love. And yet, whatever words and practices we may have offered you, the experience over these months has, of course, been your experience. You will have received our words and practices from where you are, in yourself, in this inner and outer journey of your own life in this world. So I'd like to offer a contemplative inquiry now into your own current experiences of living in presence and through presence into love in this part of your own journey in the arc of your life. Let me set this up and then we'll take a few minutes. Let's now feel into this question more deeply for a moment. Sitting with eyes half closed, closed or open, whatever works for you, taking a long, deep breath. Let this breath help to reach your attention into yourself. Reaching gently, reaching lightly into your simple and pure awareness of being, exactly just as it is at the moment. Feel for the subtle sense of vibrancy in you. This present aliveness here in your body, the pulse of your miraculous existence that is always present in you, behind, within your thoughts, emotions, sufferings, attachments, and identifications, always present. And now, imagine within each and every pulse of your essential being, there is an inbuilt openness, a natural leaning towards connectivity, a natural leaning towards connection with the pulse of the essential being of everything that is within and around you, in nature, in each other, animals, the world at large, everything that is alive. And that this caring, this natural connection is made of caring, of compassion, a natural connection that is made of listening and an unconditional generosity of spirit. This connectivity that is naturally here and is made of love. Imagine reaching out from this pure awareness and its natural connectivity with everything that is alive, reaching out into your own particular life as it is now. And in your own journey from here, starting today and going forwards, maybe over the next weeks and months, who and what do you imagine in your mind's eye that you will readily meet and attune with from this natural state of connection? Where and with whom will your state of presence and your experience of love and loving attune naturally and thrive easily and readily? And then, where and with whom might a state of presence and of love feel called for next in your life, where it may feel perhaps a little more challenging, perhaps even blocked or withheld, representing new opportunities for the bringing and the practicing of love in your life next. Opportunities to love more, which of course may hurt a little sometimes, or even feel unreasonable, but which, if you are drawn to them and you want to meet them, may represent possible gateways in your lived heart that you might next approach and push at a little, push open a little. And that this may represent some kind of threshold for you, yielding a possible opening and a deepening of your being, and perhaps the being of the other. These may simply be the plants in your garden that need a little more love and watering, your pets, a room in your home, aspects, of course, of yourself that you may have judged, family members, friends, colleagues, difficult aspects of the world at large. Let's take a couple more minutes of silence to look for this inside. And now, opening your eyes if they were closed, free to perhaps make a written note for yourself now that you can return to, if you choose, of what may have emerged in your contemplative inquiry, of the opportunities that may have arisen in your heart, in your imagination, to gently push further open more chambers in your heart, even if this feels difficult and yet possible. Opportunities to love more. To finish, I'd like to quote Elias's words from his recent essay, Love is the Highest Ground, where he says, the love that is called for is not comfortable and is not something that we do. It's bigger than us. And he finishes by saying, I'm not sure this holy, painful, tender love will make things better in the world. But that's not the point. The point is not to turn away. The point is to be this love, even as we witness its absence in the human world. As our species and the life of our whole planet face existential threats, may we find the grace to love like this, wider, deeper, unreasonably, until the end of our days. Thank you. Trace.
Thank you. This opening to love as a wholeness, to which everything, right down to the pulse of our essential being, everything always already belongs, begs a question. How come so many of us still find ourselves sometimes feeling at odds, in exile, hostile, numb, blocked? Why isn't it always already fulfilled, this love? Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So I started a list, and 35 entries later, I noticed that these so-called barriers actually felt more interesting to me than the clear, easy, straightforward love. Fears, confusions, sorrows, yearning, not enjoyable, but interesting. Instead of feeling, sort of dead, each one had its own pulse and aliveness. I noticed a skin in the game feeling, an X marks the spot feeling. I noticed, like it or not, relationship. So what if the barriers I imagine between me and love, what if they're not so much dead ends as a differently alive kind of gate? Imagine a gate. One kind of space on this side, another kind of space on that side, and in between a kind of lock, which, if you think about it, is essentially a specially shaped opening made of special turns requiring a special relationship, one we call a key. It's interesting that Rumi says, seek and find these barriers. He doesn't say, kick them down. He says, in effect, draw near. I notice that the closer I draw to my barriers, the less solid and more open they feel. So if drawing closer begins to turn the lock, does that mean that the key is somehow me, keying myself to this special opening, which is a little mysterious. But sometimes the most mysterious thing for me is just my own nature. Say love is a prism for seeing the world. And my heart, not actually my own, but of that prism. Then maybe drawing uncomfortably, unreasonably close, wholeheartedly keyed to the locks against love in my life is one way they can open as gates. Rumi doesn't actually stop at seek and find these barriers within your life. That line actually ends, and embrace them. We're about to break into small groups, and the question we hope you'll consider together is this: where do you feel in your own life locked against love? And how might you imagine yourself somehow, mysteriously, the key?
Here we are. We've been here all along. We can be nowhere else but here. And yet it feels like we've been on a journey together, a caravan through the world of spirit, taking in the sights, visiting the outlooks from which we might grasp our humanity, looking out from the peaks of insight, making our way through the valleys of bewilderment. And yet, here we are. We've been here all along. We can be nowhere else. And yet it feels like we've been working together these past 6 months on an archaeological dig, searching for treasures in the rubble of everyday life, discovering how sublime we can be and how foolish we often are. How our bodies, hearts, minds, and spirits are one, individually and collectively are one, and yet can find countless clever ways to act separately, keeping us divided. And yet, here we are. We've been here all along. we can be nowhere else. And now the journey continues. The summer opens her arms, welcoming an outrageous outpouring of life and sweetness. And we, like children, running out of doors towards the promises of becoming. What lies ahead? In the star fields of August, will we recognize the signs pointing to a future of freedom, wisdom, and love? What does the future hold? Will our community expand and deepen its embrace? And yet, here we are. We've been here all along. We can be nowhere else but here, in the ever elusive now, in the just this of just this. Rumi calls this here and now the buoyancy in the last few lines of this poem. So the journey goes on, and who knows where. Just to be held by this ocean is the best luck we can have. It's a total waking up. Why should we grieve that we've been sleeping? It doesn't matter how long we've been unconscious. We may be groggy, but let the guilt go. Feel the motions of tenderness all around us. The buoyancy, the motions of tenderness all around us. The buoyancy, the buoyancy, the buoyant sea. Vashira.
Well, thank you, Paran. And hello, beloveds. Well, through the course of this session so far, we've done some inquiry into ourselves. We've shared and listened to some perhaps intimate explorations in our small groups. Now we're going to quiet our minds and go deeper and wider into the heart space. We'll start with a modified version of the welcoming prayer, welcoming practice. The full practice is given in 3 parts, the inner bow, consent to silence, and welcome love. It turns out, though, that with just a little preparation, we can cross the threshold into welcoming love as a standalone practice in its own right. And that will be our focus today. In order to get started, though, we'll start at the beginning. We'll commence with a very abbreviated inner bow in just one breath. Really paying attention to the felt experience inside us. Next, we'll move on to consent to silence in 2 breaths, releasing the burden of perpetually attending and reacting to our thinking minds, and opening instead to the felt experience of the spaciousness that exists between our thoughts. Aren't these felt experiences a kind of tenderness, a kind of buoyancy, a kind of love? Finally, we'll move into welcoming love, breathing and basking in the current of loving relief and release that permeates the spaciousness, the silence, the openness, which precedes all thought. How does it really feel to bathe ourselves in it, to become it? So with that, let's begin. Let's close our eyes and settle ourselves. Now, take a soft, easy in-breath. Breathing out slowly and sorry about that. Turning it off. Breathing out slowly and comfortably. Perform an inner bow and notice how it feels. Stay with that for a moment. It's just an inner bow, and yet breathing in once again, and on a slow and comfortable out breath, let's release ourselves from the burden of thinking, dropping into the space between thoughts. How does that release feel? From the grip of the mind into spaciousness, into silence. Now, on our next inhale, let's breathe that feeling into and through our hearts. And then back out again, releasing ourselves once more from thoughts into the space in between. Continue in this vein, letting go even of ideas of thinking or non-thinking. Instead, staying with the felt experience, breathing any stirrings of love, of tenderness we may feel outward for all to share, and then streaming love inward through our heart of hearts. Notice any ways in which our felt experience changes or evolves. Let's shift our focus now to all the beloveds gathered together with us here in the session today, enveloping and bestowing one and all the love contained in our mutual out-breath. Then inhaling all the love that we as a community have just bestowed upon each other. Continue in this vein. Notice how it feels to give and receive love as a community. Breathe that for a while. Expand now to include all beloveds, even the difficult ones. Remember, no analysis, Notice only how it feels to include all beloveds. Just a few more breaths, and this practice will come to its end. And yet, thank you all so very much. What a joy to breathe and bathe in love as one. Amen.
Thank you, Bashira. Please return now to gallery view and of course remain muted.
You're muted, Isha.
How could I do that to myself? Here we are, friends, back where we began. I ask you now to slowly gaze around this room of welcoming. Take your time and really see each of us who are right now here in this room, as I call it, in this room together. You have 2 pages to scroll through. It's a big room. But for right now, wander through this room we share. And again, really see each of us who are here with you. And as you wander, gazing and sometimes at least recognizing those who are in the room with you, wonder at it. Not wonder about it, but wonder at it. That we are here together in this moment. We cannot know, nor can we really even imagine the sequence of events occurring over immeasurable time that have brought us to this moment of fruition. Who is there with you in this room right now? Now, as you've scrolled through and gazed upon all who are here, find yourself. Find you amongst these many. It's a little odd, isn't it? Not quite looking at oneself in a mirror. You're not alone. I see myself with all of you. And I see all of you with me amidst this little community. Consider now for a moment not how or why you are here, but that you are. That you are here amidst a community made up of some you know not at all, some you may call acquaintances, and some who you may truly call your friends. Right now, in this moment, these distinctions matter not at all. They offer no differences of any importance. It feels enough simply that we are here together. So just for a breath or two, place your hand upon your heart as you look around this room once more, in recognition that we are here together at this, at this ever-present threshold of loving. Please remain now in gallery view as Gabriel will bring us to the completion of this Living Sufism program.
From Pir Elias' Book of Flashes. Turn your life toward what you love. If it is a child, or the sea, or the words in books, the smile of a woman or a man, the plants in a garden. Whatever it is, grow there in that company. Become like a tree that shelters other lovers. Roots finding secrets beneath. Crown top waving in the sunlight. No one sees. Be true to that love, not to ownership. Be like wind pouring through forests and clearings, circling mountains, running along rivers. Turn your life to that big love you have always suspected is the country you came from. Sing the way they sing there. Be that light-hearted and warm-hearted and easygoing, even into your death. Your sails full of love's assurance. Be that light-hearted and warm-hearted and easygoing, even into your death. Your sails full of love's assurance. Your sails full of love's assurance. Thank you. Go in peace and love.